What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with an in-depth look at the Alcatel Idol 4S. This is one of the most compelling smartphone bargains on the market today because it delivers an excellent design, some impressive specs and features, and bundles a VR headset, which is more than just a piece of cardboard. And because this phone includes the VR headset, it makes for a very unusual unboxing experience. It's actually kind of neat. So when you lift the lid, the first thing you'll see here is the VR headset, and you won't find the phone, and that's because the phone is housed in the VR headset itself. So all I have to do is pop off the front panel, and then you can use this little clip to pop out the phone. We're going to set the phone aside really quickly here so we can get through all the accessories that come included. So the VR headset, of course, is wrapped in plastic, and we'll have to remove all that. You also see that the back of the headset pops off, and inside we'll find all of the straps for mounting the headset to our head and making sure it's comfortable. So the headset is nicely padded and very comfortable to wear for an extended period of time. Of course, we also get some accessories here, which are tucked into this little compartment on the side of the box, and inside we'll find a micro USB charging cable, which also works with the rapid charger also included here, another great value to have on a phone of this price. And unlike a lot of mid-range or budget phones, this does include a set of headphones, and it's a really nice set from JBL with an inline remote control and microphone. So when it comes to the phone's design, it really is quite nice. It's all metal and glass and looks much more premium than its price. So obviously it's a pretty familiar design, but they didn't skimp on any of the details. It even has rounded glass panels at the sides, so the phone is very comfortable to grip, and again, it just looks very nice. But if you want to add some grip to this phone and protect it, Incipio makes a really nice series of cases for this design. Now if you look along the right side, we'll find our volume rocker, which is kind of high up here, but it is easy to operate. Down below it, we'll find a button that you would think is the power button, but it's not. This is called the boom button, and it's a button that you can basically assign to do different functions, and we'll explore that in this video. On the left side, we'll find our sleep-wake power button, which is very high up here. It's thumb reachable, so if you're left-handed, this is a great layout, but if you're right-handed, it's kind of out of the way. Just below it, we also have our nano SIM tray and micro SD card slot. Now the interesting thing here is that the slot can either be a dual SIM setup or a single SIM with a micro SD card slot. So basically, one of the SIM trays can be used for micro SD. Toward the top edge, we have our headphone jack and one of the microphones, and you can see just how thin this phone is because it's basically as thin as the headphone jack is round. Of course, toward the bottom, we have our USB port. This is micro USB, not USB 3, but it does support quick charge. Along the back of the phone, we'll find a protruding camera module. So this is 16 megapixels with an f2.0 aperture and a dual tone LED flash. Now this does not feature optical image stabilization, but it does have 4K video recording. Down below it, we'll find our fingerprint sensor. Now this is very flush. It's kind of difficult to feel for, especially since you can't see it when operating the phone. Unfortunately, it's not the best sensor I've used to date. It's not very sensitive and not very accurate, and it's really hard to place your finger accurately when you can't see or feel for it properly. So they do need to improve this design, I think, in the next iteration. Now, one of this phone's most distinguishing feature is its speaker design. This is easily the best sounding phone I've ever tested, especially this year because stereo speakers are going away. So we get a set of stereo speakers. We have a speaker on the top and bottom, and the great thing here is that the speakers work either toward the front of the phone or toward the back of the phone. So we have outlets on both sides of the phone, which means you get this more immersive 360-degree sound. In terms of our front-facing camera, this is 8 megapixels with a nice wide-angle aperture, good for 1080p HD video. Again, that's a fairly high-spec camera for a phone of this price. Also hidden in here is an LED flash for lighting up your selfies or video. Another spec that makes this phone a real outstanding bargain at this price is its display. 5.5-inch Quad HD AMOLED display, and it's fantastic. Bright, vivid colors, a fairly clear white. It's a little on the blue side, so it's not perfect. It's not like the Galaxy S7 in terms of its quality, but it is easily one of the best displays at this price by far. Of course, Quad HD is a great technology to have with the VR headset. My only real complaint here is that the display isn't as bright as the AMOLED on the Galaxy S7, and certainly not as bright as many of the LCD displays. Now, where they really cut the corners on this phone is in its specs. So this is powered by a Snapdragon 652 and an Adrenal 510 GPU with 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of onboard storage with micro SD expansion. Now the big issue here is the processor. The 652 definitely falls well short of the Snapdragon 820 available in the similarly priced OnePlus 3. And of course the OnePlus 3 also gives you 6 gigs of RAM. So if you boil this down to our Geekbench scores, obviously there's a pretty big difference here in terms of the potential performance of the device. Now this does manifest on the device with sluggish performance and noticeable hesitation. So this phone definitely doesn't feel as quick as something like the the OnePlus 3. That could be the software optimization, that could be the display, which is pushing a lot more pixels than the OnePlus 3, which may be slowing things down. But it's clear when you're using this phone that there is some performance constraints. Now, much more impressive on this device is the 3000 milliamp hour battery, which delivers about 6 hours of on-screen time at maximum brightness. That's really impressive performance. That's about an hour better than I expect out of most flagship smartphones, which usually land about 5 hours in the same test. So when it comes to the camera's quality, we don't have a lot of bells and whistles here. So no optical image stabilization, no laser-assisted autofocusing, nothing like that. It's just a 16 megapixel sensor with a fairly shallow f2.0 aperture, so it doesn't have a shallow depth of field, so the camera doesn't have to spend too much time focusing, but it also doesn't let a lot of light in. So if you have plenty of light, especially in daylight conditions, images look fantastic. Good color reproduction, clear sharpness, and the camera doesn't have to spend too much time focusing on its shot. Now, in terms of low light, the camera is very poor, very low sensitivity, colors are washed out, and there's plenty of noise to go around. So when it comes to video, we also have 4K, but no optical image stabilization means that handheld video can look a bit shaky. But the quality is actually pretty good here. We see a good amount of sharpness, color reproduction, the right amount of exposure. Video also gets autofocusing, but it's very slow and not very responsive, so you have to spend a lot of time tapping the screen to make sure it finds the right focus point. Now, in terms of the VR experience, there is some software pre-installed that demonstrates some of the features, so we get some 360-degree photographs, some VR video, and some games. So this is kind of a nice way of demonstrating the technology. Now, personally for me, I'm not a big fan of this type of VR just because it's not very immersive. So the optics are pretty small, so I can definitely see the border around the headset. Really, it kind of looks like I'm seeing a screen floating in front of me with a lot of black space around it. So it's really not that immersive, and the sharpness is pretty low. So even though we have a quad HD display, VR is really not taking advantage of that resolution anyway. So for me, I kind of see this as a nice option for watching a VR video, but for the most part, I'm not going to use this very often. So taking a look at the interface, Android 6.0.1 with quite a few features added, and one of them is a touchless UI. So basically, if I hover my finger over the screen, it reacts to it. In this case, on the lock screen, it just wakes up to show you your notifications. So again, let me show you what happens. Right now, I just see badges for my notifications. If I hover my finger over it, wakes it up, and there you go. This also works on the home screen, or the launcher as they call it. So let's see if we can unlock using our not so great fingerprint sensor. So if we do this over the home screen, you can see the home screen or the wallpaper fades in the background. That's all it does. It also does the same effect if you swipe across on the home screens to swipe between them. So I'm not sure why that's on the home screen, but it's there. And of course, you can turn this off. We're going to go to settings. We're going to go to gestures, and you can see touchless UI. So if you can turn this off for both the launcher and lock screen, or one or the other. There's a few other tricks on the lock screen, such as quick shortcuts to some of our favorite apps, which we can modify under settings. So if you want to jump to your calculator, it's right here. We can also double tap the lock screen to wake it up, and double tap anywhere on the lock screen to put it back to sleep. This also works within the launcher or home screen interface. So if I just double tap any blank space here, it also puts it back to sleep. Another thing we have is black screen gestures. So I can draw a W to activate an assigned app. In this case, it's Chrome, but there's a few others I can activate here as well. So if I go to settings, I can see I have my gesture options under black screen gestures. So I have C, W, M, and E. So I can assign apps to those gestures. So I have C for camera, W for Chrome, M for music, and E for email. But if I want to assign one of these to different apps, I can go ahead and select them from this list. So if I want to open up Facebook, I can do that as well. Checking out the drop-down shade, of course, we have our notifications, and just above that, we have our quick setting toggles. And we have a few features unique to the device, such as reversibility. So this allows us to turn this feature off. So once again, this basically allows the phone to be flipped in either direction. And since we have speakers at the top and bottom, it performs the same. But of course, the camera on the back changes position, so that's something to keep in mind. We also have a toggle for our max audio profile. So again, this is software that is the equalizer software for this phone. So audio is a big part of this device. So we have music, and when you tap on the arrow down below it, we can actually select different equalizer profiles. And you can go to more settings to take you directly to the app to modify those if you want. We can also edit the screen. So if we go to edit, we have a few additional ones we can add. So we have cast screen, do not disturb, data roaming, and invert colors. But if we want to add one of these, we're going to have to drag and drop one of these out of here. So we're limited to 12 at a time. There's also a few tricks to this wallpaper. So if we tap and hold, we can get to our wallpapers, and you can see there's quite a few to pick from. Personally, I don't like the one this comes with, so I'm going to select something else just to show you one of the features here, which is parallax. So we can toggle this on and off when we select the wallpaper. So once we go and select that, go back to the home screen, you can see that as I rotate the device around or pitch the device around, the wallpaper responds, and it actually looks pretty good. Now, in terms of this boom key along the side, we'll have to go to our settings panel to adjust it. So this is an assignable key. Essentially, especially. So if we go to this boom key control panel, you can see there's a variety of things we can turn on and off. So we can press the boom key to turn on the screen, kind of like a lock button here. So if the device is locked, hit it, wakes up the lock screen. Pretty basic. We also have double press the boom key to take a photograph or long press to take a burst shot. So for example, if you're within the camera app here, if I just press this, it'll take a photograph, press and hold, I'll take a burst shot. Another trick here is that if I have that selected, if I double press the boom key, this will actually launch directly into the camera app and snap a photograph right away. This will also work on the home screen as well. So anywhere in the system, if I double press this, this will launch into the camera app and take a photograph. We also get a variety of actions when the screen is turned on. So we can activate boom effects, and this is available from the home screen. So let me show you exactly what this is. So if I press this, you can see we get this effect here, which kind of looks like a starburst. And then as I move the device around, you can see it pitches with me, kind of like that parallax effect that the wallpaper also responds to. We can also have it instantly take a screenshot. So if I press that, snaps the screen, which is useful. We can also trigger a specific application, so it's either one or the other. As you can see, as I move to another one, it turns off that previous feature and goes to the next one. So if you want this specifically to launch into, let's say, YouTube, let's go and confirm this, it will launch directly into YouTube, which is also kind of useful. Of course, you can also tell it to do nothing at all, but I think the most useful feature is the camera key. So if we turn this on, we now have a dedicated camera button, which I really like. So you can launch the camera, so it launches directly into the camera right away, snap your photograph, and tap and hold to take a burst shot. So checking out this camera app, we can swipe between our available modes such as panorama and manual mode. So with manual mode, we have manual controls for things like our focus depth, and we can tap auto to resume auto mode, as well as white balance, our aperture, and our ISO levels. We also get slow motion and micro video. So with micro video, this takes 3-second clips, or as long as you hold this button and records the video, you can record as many clips as you want until you fill up the timeline, and then you can click done, stitches it all together into a short form video. But the most interesting feature here is Fuse, which is actually from an app, so it's plugged into the camera app here. So with Fuse, you can take basically 3D images or virtual reality images, so you can walk around the subject while using this feature. It records it in 3D, so it kind of maps it out, and it stitches it all together. So when you pitch the phone left and right once it's created the image, you can see the image rotate and move around in real time. It's actually really interesting. Of course, for best results, you want a still subject, but even if the subject is moving around, you still get pretty decent results. So in conclusion, I'm somewhat mixed on this phone. It has a lot of strengths, like its great display, speaker system, great battery life with quick charge, which is great to have on a device like this, and its design and materials are definitely top notch. But what's not so great is the software experience, which is somewhat gimmicky and not terribly useful, and performance definitely lags on this hardware. But much of this can be improved with software updates or just loading a different launcher onto the hardware. But for $349 or $399 for the non-sale price, I think you have a lot of competition to take a look at, like the OnePlus 3, which is a phone I personally really like. Alrighty guys, hope you enjoyed this review of the Idol 4S. If you guys did, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and I'll see you again in the next video.